It's a great conference. There's people from all aspects of clinical development, clinical trial experience, CDMO, patients, clinicians, everybody's here contributing to the information that we're all looking for and that we're all sharing. I hope the pediatric review voucher gets reauthorized. It's so critical to figure out how we provide economic incentives for individuals and companies to work on rare disease therapeutics. They're much harder to commercialize. They're harder to develop. The clinical trials are more difficult. They fail more often. The ultimate cost of the clinical trials and the commercial potential of the drugs is often less than in common diseases. So anything we can do to focus pharmaceutical companies and biotechs and other funders on the rare disease space is important. There are some reasons to think about changing the pediatric review voucher process. One of the things that's really important is to make sure that any company that develops a drug and receives a voucher actually makes sure that that drug gets put out into the market so patients have access to it. There have been some situations where that hasn't happened. It might also be important to put some kind of a limit to the size of a company and the amount of money they're going to make marketing the drug and how much they might be able to sell the pediatric voucher for, because they're fungible assets. Once you get a voucher, you can sell it to somebody else. And there may be a need to put a limit on the number of vouchers that a particular company can get, or maybe that get issued in a year, so that it doesn't become a commodity and it still remains a useful tool in developing therapies for rare diseases. I think we don't really know the full extent to what AI will do for therapy development in the rare disease space and for clinical trials in particular, but I'm very hopeful. Several of the groups that I work with, including Healx, the biotech that I work for, have assets in clinical trials right now that were AI developed. And we're hoping the first AI predicted or AI developed asset will get market approval, and that we'll be able, when we look back, to see this really would be unlikely to have been put out in the rare disease space were it not for the expanded ability of AI to help the pharmacologists and the chemotherapeutic people and all the others who are critical in this space. But having this AI information and skill set available to them really changes the way we can do this kind of work. I also think AI is going to be helpful in things like figuring out what to do with data from wearables and other kinds of data. We were talking yesterday about how we use some really crude measures of change in therapy development, like in a disease like Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We use a 6-minute walk test to see if somebody is having a improvement when they're on a therapy or when they're on a placebo. And when you use one test like that, and somebody who had to travel to a clinical site and maybe isn't in their highest energy level on the day that they're being tested, we don't really have accurate data. But imagine if they were wearing a device that was tracking their movement every moment of every minute in a 6-month period of time, and we could watch a curve change, or we could see when they're more active or less active, and we could compare it to a control, either themselves or a natural history study. We'd have much more accurate data, and it would be easier on the individuals who are participating in the clinical trials as well. It doesn't put as much pressure on them. They can do this at home. So I'm really excited about how the development of technology, including AI, is going to help in therapeutic development. Key takeaways. So first one is the the hurdles of clinical trials and clinical development in the rare disease space are not unknown. The vast majority of the people here are all facing the same kinds of hurdles around things like recruitment, around developing endpoints, around the cost of clinical trials, around the commercialization, around the incentives to even be in the rare disease space. And whenever we gather in a place like this, we generate new ideas that hadn't been thought about before. I'm just about to go in and lead a roundtable in a discussion, and those are always really so interesting to get people from all aspects of therapeutic development in the same space talking about the same topic, and new ideas come up. So I'm hopeful that these kinds of meetings are important to gather people who otherwise would never get together to share ideas and leave here with new optimism and new opportunities.